question to the panel. Well, I told you yesterday about this silly push by the US Democrats to get President Donald Trump sacked, impeached for allegedly putting pressure on Ukraine's new President Zelensky to get dirt on Joe Biden, the former Vice President, now the Democrat frontrunner for next year's US presidential election. Now, as I said last night, this could backfire big time, especially all over Biden, because Trump was actually interested in how Biden's son, Hunter, somehow managed to be asked onto the board of a Ukrainian gas company when his dad was Vice President of the US and pushing for Ukraine to fire the Ukrainian prosecutor who was investigating that very company's owner for corruption. Well, overnight, Trump has released the transcript of his conversation with Zelensky. I'll read what he actually said. And you be the judge of whether the Democrats and much of the media have once again gone nuts with Trump hatred, saying that he's got to be sacked for saying this to President Zelensky after congratulating him for his election win. He said, the other thing, there's a lot of talk about Biden's son, that's Hunter, that Biden stopped the prosecution. And a lot of people want to find out about that. So whatever you can do with the Attorney General would be great. Biden went around bragging that he stopped the prosecution, which he did, so you can look into it. It sounds horrible to me. Well, joining me is the panel, Jack Horton, digital editor of Sky News, and Fiona Scott, former Liberal MP. Jack Horton, should Donald Trump be sacked for saying to Ukraine's president what I just read out?
Certainly not. And I think that the transcript that you've just read out now puts it all a lot plainer. I think the other thing to point out is that publications such as the New York Times, they were salivating over this, and they were doing so because there was also the direct allegation that Donald Trump had threatened to pull aid in exchange for this investigation to take part. So there's two things at play. That was clearly a misreport. That didn't happen. He did kind of vaguely talk a little bit about aid in the transcript, but the allegation which came from this whistleblower that linked the two notions together was intrinsically incorrect. I think the other point that I'd make about this as well is I don't think the Democrats care necessarily that Joe Biden could be pulled into this, because the people who did not want the impeachment process to go ahead, they're not wanting Joe Biden to win the primaries. These people are backing Elizabeth Warren. So Nancy Pelosi, she was fighting this push. She's been fighting it for months, and she's finally been pulled into this very untenable position for the Democrats because the US people do not want impeachment to go ahead.
Jack Horton, spot on. But Fiona, you know, once again, the media hysteria, you know, that he must have done this, colluded with Ukraine, threatened it, the immediate rush to condemn, like the 2 years of fake news about the Russian collusion story. What is driving this?
Well, look, it's a straight-out hatred, Andrew, and the thing is, it's the same group of people that refuse to acknowledge why Trump was elected in the first place. Now, I'm going to admit that I'm actually not a Trump fan, but at the same token, I understand why he exists. I understand the pushback from so many parts of America that wanted to drain the swamp. And we saw that with some of the swamp even here in Canberra that attacked Paul Murray when Paul Murray interviewed Donald Trump. And whilst they attack Donald Trump and whilst they go after people like Donald Trump, they're never going to address the reason why they lost in the first place. And the more they go down the line, the more they are going to ostracise themselves from this key constituency that's frankly had enough. And sorry, Paul, I was almost calling you Paul Murray there, Andrew. But Andrew, these are the issues that you see right across America. You see it in the UK, and of course you see it here in Australia. For, you know, how could a Scott Morrison possibly have won? You know, he way too far to the right. And whilst these lefties continue to deny the reasons why these three people are in the positions they're at, they're never going to find themselves on that blue carpet.